Thank you for joining me for another Quick Hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn, aka Mental MacGyver. I provide luxury level high performance support and coaching to executives, founders, celebrities, and athletes. With me today, I have Pascal Derrien. He's the CEO of the nonprofit Migraine Ireland and is an avid athlete. I have Ed Samuel. He is a career coach at Sam Nova, where he helps mid to senior level leaders get to a better place, whether they are working or in transition. And I have Joey Robert Parks. He is a 32-book author and ghostwriter and the Da Vinci of writing. He can write any style, genre, or topic and make it sound natural, like he's been an expert in it for decades. The topic today, I read this, sometimes there are no important benefits to doing a task beyond the basic acceptable level. Pascal, what do you think?
So as opposed to trying to think about, is it okay if I do something average, I'm trying to think, is it okay if I'm the guy or the girl on the other side? I came across recently a couple of activities where I was expecting a very decent level of engagement and commitment from the individual I was talking to. And basically what I got was mediocrity. And I think if you do something, I think you have to do it really, really, really well. Or actually you don't do it. I may sound binary here, but I think unless it's a highly transactional task, but if there's something that does require your input, the very reason why we require your input is because you're going to provide some value to it. If you do a mediocre job, I think the relationship is flawed and think that that's not going to work. So it's a lost opportunity as far as I'm concerned. So I was thinking more as a recipient rather than actually the doer, the giver.
Joey?
Yeah, I was thinking it depends on benefits for who. Right. And then also perfectionism is part of it. Going beyond a level, it comes down to kind of along the lines of what Pascal's saying about communicating between you and the other person, what the deliverables are, what the expectation levels are. Really, what's the expectation level? Sometimes assuming that the task is the level, like go do this thing, but you didn't say how well you're going to do that thing. It's kind of expected that you're going to do it at the highest level you can. I think it comes down to, and the benefits, I mean, also benefits for who, right? I mean, it's easy to think at client level, but even among friends, I think that happens a lot when you have friends help each other and they go, hey, I want to do this project, and they don't really define what they're expecting.
Perhaps. Ed, what were your thoughts?
A couple of thoughts. One is going back to what's the situation at the moment. And I think about the situation where, hey, time's of the essence, and I'm short on time. Person needs some feedback. And I can make a judgment and say, well, I'm going to wait till next Tuesday and do it really, really well. But the train's leaving the station at 8 o'clock. I got to say something. So you have to be careful that if I'm worried about making it too perfect or such high quality response and the train's left the station, it really doesn't matter then because next Wednesday was too late. So some of it has to do with the situation at the moment and how urgent somebody needs something and how quick I'm going to give a response. And if I have time, my tendency will be to err into doing something in a quality way. And if I'm dealing with family, maybe I'm a little bit shorter and less concerned. But if I'm dealing with a client, whole different matter. And the quality of what you do matters a lot. And just one last point, early on in my practice, if I send a proposal to someone and there was spelling error in the proposal, I've had a couple of clients not hire me saying, hey, if that's what you do for a proposal, then I'm not interested in you working with me on something else.
I think the thing about this, the part that's important is there are no important benefits. And here's the example that always comes up for me whenever I talk about perfection versus good enough. When I was in college, I took a biology class and 100% in that biology class was 1,000 points. I ended up with 989 points, I think is what I ended up with. So short by like 11. With the curve, an A in that class was 750. So all of the work that I did for those extra, 250 points was pointless. Like there was absolutely no benefit to it whatsoever. I could have spent that time studying somewhere else. Now, I didn't know that until at the end, he put the curve up and it was a curve like this and then a big empty space and then my little blip in his curve. But I think the thing that matters is what are the important benefits? And to your point, Pascal, important to whom?
And I was thinking about where you get your morning coffee. So if you get your morning coffee with a smile and a quick chat, you may come back. So you may get your morning coffee with no smile and no chat. You're still going to get your coffee, and your coffee is going to be delicious. But I may not come back.
Right.
So I think you cannot do your best, but I think when there's intent, at least, to me, that's the difference. So you cannot be perfect and be your best every day, 24/7. It's not going to happen. But if there's an intent, I think it makes a huge difference, and that people sense it. As Ed was saying, maybe he had a low day, or it was an off day, and his proposal was a bit meh. And it may be perfectly acceptable, and the delivery would have been extraordinary. But oh no, it was just a component. So I think the task, and it's pretty unfair, I think, but anything we do, it's subject to scrutiny, either actively or non-actively. There's some bias and unconscious bias that's starting to be built when you interact with people. So I know my morning coffee where I am, the guys are super. There's no reason why I can go and get the coffee elsewhere when actually it's cheaper. Those guys are super. And actually, I don't even have to ask what I want at this stage. Everything is ready almost, which is great. But you will have a chat and whatever, and they know I'm diabetic, and they know this, and they know that, and they don't push. It's different. But it's highly transactional. It's just a coffee. But they do their best.
I did a proposal yesterday for a potential client, and when I quoted him the turnaround time, I said, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and he said, "Oh, that fast." And my first thought was, "Uh-oh, he thinks I'm rushing through it. He thinks I'm, blowing through it." And I was like, and I'm just now realizing that I was in like sort of oh crap mode for 20 minutes on the Zoom call. And I was like, oh no, he thinks that. And if I'd have been aware of that consciously, I could have addressed that immediately. I wonder how that came off. I guess I'll find out.
Sometimes it's the little things too, right? If you're this morning, I sent a text message to someone who left me a really nice voicemail yesterday. I said, "Hey, thank you so much for that voicemail. It meant a lot to me." And she sent me a note back. And it was just she typed thanking wrong. And then immediately she sent a note. "Sorry, fat fingers. Love you. Bye." Now, I would just argue some people would never send you a note back, fat fingers. They would just say, "You know what I meant. I spelled a letter wrong. What's the big deal?" So some of it comes down to something as simple as that. Of who are you? What do you really care about in terms of the quality of how you do the little things, let alone the medium things, let alone the big things, right? Let alone how you engage clients. So I think it's really interesting.
So
I was thinking, also because in isolation, one task may not necessarily a problem, but then if it becomes a modus operandi, if it's acceptable for one, it's acceptable for many. And then you end up having an organization that's going through the motions. And then there's no ambition. And then there's nothing. And then it becomes stale. And mediocrity does show its ugly head as well. So in isolation, you may say, it's not important, just one task, but as part of a larger ecosystem, if it's acceptable for one, you could do it for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7. And then in the end, that's not the best version of yourself.
It's interesting. I was on a call recently with someone who was taking notes and creating a diagram live on the call, like you could see it happening. And he left a lot of typos in it. And I noticed them, which I'm dyslexic. So for me to notice a typo, it has to be pretty bad. And I remember thinking I would never be able to do that and kind of contemplating, what does that say that I wouldn't and he does and whatever. But later I got the cleaned up version proposal from him, and it's perfect. It's flawless. There's nothing wrong with it. So in the moment, how important was it that those typos not be there, other than that they were distracting, if in the end, the finished product was fine?
Yeah. It just leaves you that moment of uncertainty between seeing it the first time and then seeing it the second time. If you'd been a client situation where that would put you in that uncertain period for a while, but then let's say you got the job, the person would have to say, well, I guess they're just, anyway, yeah, it creates a moment of concern for sure. How much is it worth it not having that?
And the thing that we're kind of grappling with is being held to the standard of perfection, like your proposal should have no typos in it.
Right.
And then how important is it to make sure it's at perfection before you send it? And that's the thing that all of us are kind of like, well, yes, and priorities. I think that's the challenge. Yeah. But that's our 10 minutes. So I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. And I look forward to speaking to each of you again very soon.
Thank you.